In the olden days, when the sun rose golden over the savannah, and the baobab trees cast their long shadows over the red earth, there lived a leader in the heart of the mossy lands. This was a time of crossroads of hope twined with caution, of ancient wounds and new beginnings. In the bustling capital of Ouagadougou, the people whispered that history was about to be written anew. Chief Ibrahim Traoré, who had once donned the warrior's garb, now wore a robe stitched with the proud patterns of his ancestors. On this day, the great hall of the International Summit Center shimmered with expectation. Word had spread far and wide. The dragon from the east had come, bearing promises of gold and friendship. Reporters and scribes from distant lands had gathered, their notebooks ready to capture the tale of the century. At one end of the long, polished council table sat Traoré, his presence calm but his eyes sharp as an eagle's. Across from him was the caravan leader from China, Wei Jiang, surrounded by his advisors, all dressed in silks as smooth as the Niger River at dawn. "This treasure, our lithium, will transform our land," proclaimed Minister Kabor, his voice echoing like a talking drum through the assembly. "We shall build schools, hospitals, and a future worthy of our children. The days of outsiders harvesting our fields while we go hungry are over." The mood was bright, the air thick with the scent of possibility. For many seasons, the people of Burkina Faso had seen foreign traders come and go, each promising fairness, but leaving only deeper scars. Now, they thought, perhaps the tides were turning. Yet, wise chiefs know that where there is honey, there are always ants. Traoré, though surrounded by celebration, felt a shadow. He had insisted that his young interpreter, Issa Connaught, a son of the soil who had learned the tongue of Beijing, stand by his side at every meeting. Connaught's eyes, usually filled with the spark of youth, now watched the proceedings with a silent warning. Long before this day, under the cover of night, while sharing the bitter tea of hospitality, Wei Jiang had spoken of generations who would reap the bounty of the lithium. But the word he chose, Connaught later confided, was one that meant forever, a chain with no end, not just for the life of one agreement, but binding for eternity. The contract arrived, thick as the trunk of an ancient iroko, pages upon pages, of promises, each one demanding careful reading. Traoré, who had learned from the mistakes of those who came before, refused to be lulled by the sweet words on the surface. He turned again and again to the section on national security. There, dressed up in formal language, was a clause stating that Chinese guards would protect the mines, a common enough condition. But hidden deeper, in a place few would look, was a reference to an appendix. And there, like a python coiled in the undergrowth, was a passage granting the foreign guards power not only over the mine, but over the land for 50 kilometers in every direction. No permission from the chiefs, no blessing from the elders, just the will of the outsiders. Asterisk even more cunning, the contract included a passage that would allow the deal to renew itself, again and again, whenever an emergency could be declared. Like a river that never dries, the agreement could flow on forever. Impossible to damn. Traoré's mind wandered to the stories of his ancestors. How many times had the people of the savannah signed away their birthright, only to realize too late that the price was not just gold, but freedom itself? Would he, too, be remembered as the chief who traded away the land for a brief taste of wealth? Suddenly, the drumbeat of his phone broke through his thoughts. A message from Colonel Wedriago, his head of warriors. The Chinese traders were already plotting to bring their own soldiers, thousands strong, and to build camps close to military posts in great cities. The deal was not only about treasure, it was about claiming the land itself. That as the ceremonies unfolded, and the world's eyes watched, Traoré's hands trembled. All around him, his advisors whispered for him to sign, while the Chinese envoys became restless. But Traoré, guided by the wisdom of his ancestors, turned to his translator. Connaught stood quietly behind, his face tense. He remembered how, at a feast weeks earlier, Wei Jiang had spoken of generations, and how the true meaning was eternity. That night Connaught had warned Traoré that the words in Mandarin masked a hunger far greater than what was written in French. As the formalities continued and Wei Jiang made speeches of friendship, Traoré opened the contract one more time. Heart pounding, he found the clause on security, then turned to the secret appendix. What he saw confirmed his worst fears. The words gave foreign soldiers the right to act as they pleased, in the heart of Burkina Faso, without ever seeking permission or oversight. The land would not only be mined, it would be governed by outsiders. His mind flashed to the fate of former chiefs like Dimba who had signed similar pacts and were later cast out when their people learned the true price. Traoré himself had risen to power, promising that never again would Burkina Faso's resources be traded for crumbs. As he sat in turmoil, Another message arrived, this one a warning that the Chinese were already discussing permanent bases with the defense minister. The numbers were staggering. 5,000 foreign soldiers, ready to lay claim to the land. The time had come. Minister Kabor leaned in, voice trembling with excitement, whispering that this deal would be a turning point. But Traoré saw only the shadows of betrayal. He stood, and all eyes turned to him. The cameras flashed. The air was electric. "This is indeed a historic day," Traoré began, his voice steady but his mind ablaze with worry. "For too long, the riches beneath our feet have made others wealthy while our children remain poor. Today, we seek a new path, a partnership built on fairness and respect." Wei Jiang nodded, but his eyes betrayed a flicker of unease. "But partnerships," Traoré continued, "require truth. I find it curious that the Mandarin version of this contract contains passages not present in ours. Perhaps Mr. Wei can explain why his guards are to be given authority over our land, and why the contract may be extended forever without the voice of the people." A heavy silence fell. Wei Jiang's features hardened. "There must be some misunderstanding, a translation error," he said, but Traoré stood tall. "I do not think that granting foreign armies the right to rule our land is a small mistake, Mr. Wei, nor is hiding such terms in a secret appendix the act of a true friend." The room erupted in whispers. Journalists scribbled furiously, ministers fidgeted, and the Chinese delegation huddled in urgent discussion. Traoré's own ministers looked at him with a mixture of fear and awe. As the room was cleared, Traoré beckoned Connaught to a private chamber. There, the young translator revealed the full extent of the plot. Secret meetings, promises of personal riches to certain ministers, Kabor and Arago, in exchange for their silence. He handed Traoré a small device with recordings of the conversations. "Called it a new colonization," Connaught whispered. "Economic control without the guns." Traoré's face was grim. "Why did you not come to me sooner?" "I needed proof," Connaught replied, before they could finish. Traoré's security chief burst in. The Chinese were threatening to withdraw all investment. Minister Kabor, now desperate, begged the chief to reconsider. "We will find another way," Traoré said, his voice calm. He ordered the corrupt ministers placed under house arrest, and summoned the full council. "What now?" Connaught asked. "We will build with our own hands, or with true friends," Traoré replied. "But we will not exchange one master for another." That night, Traoré addressed the nation. He spoke plainly, without pomp or ceremony. He told the people of the hidden clauses, played the recordings, and laid bare the betrayal. He promised a new era, where every agreement would be read aloud, where no secret would be hidden from the people. He called for all of Africa to join in a new pact of unity, where resources would be shared and developed together, free from the chains of outsiders. The reaction was swift. The Chinese embassy denounced him, economic forecasters warned of doom, and several ministers resigned in protest. There were shortages, hardships, times when the people wondered if the price had been too high, but the spirit of the land could not be broken. Communities formed cooperatives, students invented new solutions, and slowly, the fields and mines began to bear fruit once more. Word spread to neighboring lands, where other chiefs uncovered similar traps in their own contracts, and began to renegotiate. In time, new friends appeared on the horizon. A council of South American nations, themselves wise to the tricks of distant powers, offered true partnership, sharing knowledge, not seeking dominion. 3 moons after the failed signing, Traoré stood on the edge of a mine, watching workers in uniforms that read "Made in Burkina Faso." The work was harder, the path slower, but every gain was truly theirs. One day an aide approached. "President Ningwa of Congo-Brazzaville is on the line. He seeks your wisdom in facing a similar threat." As Traoré prepared for the call, he gazed at a simple piece of paper on his wall, bearing his own hand. "Development without dignity is just another form of poverty." The months passed. Burkina Faso hosted the first Great Council of African Resource Guardians. The lithium plant neared completion, and a new generation of engineers trained to run it. The real wealth, Traoré realized, was not measured in foreign coins, but in the ability of the people to decide their fate. And when asked how he found the courage to walk away from so much gold, Traoré remembered his father, a humble farmer who lost his land to foreign men with clever words. "They offered us jobs on land that was ours, and called it progress," his father had said. "But true progress is owning your future, not working for another's." So it was that Traoré, standing beneath the wide African sky, understood what the old proverb meant: if you wish to be rich for a year, plant grain; for 10 years, plant trees; for a lifetime, grow people. And in this, he found a wealth no hidden claws could ever take.